still grooving to that track in the background. I was just like dancing to it. Cool. Well, I think we're live now. So I just want to say welcome to everyone on the panel and welcome to all that might be watching with us. Thank you for joining us on the Paxachat and the Paxachat channel here on Twitch. Thank you also to Paxachat and Twitch for having us. This is Taking Back the Music Industry in a COVID-19 Era, live streaming and adaptations. A mouthful, but a very important mouthful, and I'm really excited to get into this with this panel right here. I'm Valerie. I'm going to be the moderator for today, and I'm excited to welcome this esteemed trio with me. We have Stephanie LaFera, the Global Head of Electronic Music at WME. We have Andrew Kelsey, the President of Liaison Artists, and Jonathan McDonald, JMac over at 2+2 Management. Welcome, guys. How are you?
Hello. Good. Thanks for having us.
Of course. I'm so excited. I think this is such an important conversation. And I know yesterday when we all met up and were preparing for this chat, one thing that I think we all agreed and walked away with was that we wanted this to be a really positive chat in the end. I think all of us can realistically agree that things are hard for a lot of people right now. Things are unknown, as we've been saying for the past however many months. These are unprecedented times. There's no way of knowing what the world is going to look like in 6 months and 12 months, much less the world of the music industry. But I think that the best thing we can do is to come together as a community, to bring wisdoms, thoughts, and conversations like this together. And I know that I probably speak for a lot of people when I say that I'm excited to learn from all three of you, to have this conversation and just hear your guys' thoughts and learnings from the past few months of adjusting to the new normal. For those who are watching with us, I encourage you guys to toss some questions, thoughts, whatever it might be, into the chat. We're going to try and pull a couple of those in all throughout, so please join us for this conversation, get involved. So with all that being said, I want to start with this thought. As I was preparing for this panel, I thought to myself, in the silver lining of this situation is that I think electronic music and dance music is actually really uniquely positioned in the COVID-19 era. And I hope that you three agree with me in thinking that, if you think back a couple years ago when electronic music first started becoming really popular, especially here in North America, these were the artists that really changed the game for the live music industry. These were the artists that could travel faster and lighter than other artists, create and release songs more quickly, engage with their fans in a more intimate and faster way. And not only fans in their region, but also across the world. They could connect with people who didn't speak the same language as them, just because they bonded with this type of music. So, in the middle of a pandemic, of course, this has been a huge challenge for artists that are no longer able to tour and have had that part of their livelihood taken away. But at the same time, electronic music artists are the ones that are experimental. They're willing to try new things. And not only that, they're primed to jump into the world of live streaming, if not already had been live streaming before. So let's start there with the topic of live streaming, which, it's in the title. We know that it's become a necessity and the default of the 2020 music industry. And it's a bit of a subset, I think, now of the music industry that is definitely developing and figuring itself out even as we speak. We've seen iterations of what has worked and what hasn't. So from an industry perspective, I'm curious to hear from you three. What have you seen that has worked best across the live streaming landscape so far, and why?
Who wants to go first?
Jump on in. Maybe you, Stephanie. Why don't you go first?
I think it depends on the genre that you're talking about. I think if you're doing big room sort of anthemic festival jams, you look at what Tomorrowland created, and it was incredible, and it was for a certain kind of audience that is willing to really go in. And then you look at somebody like Insomniac, who's committed in a more weekly basis to just the community building and to feeding that music on a regular, weekly basis. So I think it really does boil down to who the artist is, what kind of music they're trying to get across. And we were just saying on a call earlier today, it's like, the extended sets that you might have really enjoyed at like DC-10 or wherever a year ago. It's a little harder to get that sort of music to connect in a virtual environment or for people to stay with it for as long. So I would say everyone's doing a good job. We're all figuring it out together, right? And depending on your flavor. Like I love what Blondish does. These are people I don't work with, but I like that, obviously Diplo does everything. So like he just keeps winning because he's willing to try. So it's really just, then you look at people like Zoo who come with like crazy creative concepts and really put lots of energy into it. And it's not about a weekly stream from his bedroom. So I think we're all tackling it as best as we can. But I do think that your style of music informs the kind of experience that you're going to want to have in a virtual environment.
I mean, I agree. I think the key has been, not try to replace live shows, but more to a chance to offer something different in addition to live shows. It's not try to recreate what a live environment would be, like a DC-10 and what have you, but to really the artists give a chance to see a different side of their creative life, their ideas, and really just a different kind of take on the entire environment.
Yeah, I agree. I think. Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, just not to try to replace live shows, but really just to kind of, give another take on it.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. You kind of get, there's like Stephanie might have mentioned, there's the really super big produced live streams, and then there's like the live streaming from home and from the artist studio. And I think you really get to see kind of what's going inside or going on in the artist world and really kind of connect with them. I'm seeing like some of these chats on these live streams, like for instance, Desert Heart stuff, where there's just hundreds of chats every 10 minutes, people like it's going off, right? And I feel like there's value in that. It's like kind of bringing you, how you mentioned the community aspect back to what we do in a major way, and the DJs in there chatting, it's like, it's just, there's this whole interactions going on in the chat that make it really valuable, I think.
It's like as close as I can get right now is watching a stream with friends and we're all texting back and forth. That's like as good as it's getting for that sort of vibe right now. Like, oh my God, what is he playing right now? No way. Yeah. Just stupid stuff. But it's kind of, I mean, it's in our nature, I think, in the electronic community to be about connection, right? Like we want to feel that. We want to, you don't go to a club just to be by yourself on a dance floor generally. You kind of go to feel something with people around you. So, I mean, we were doing it already. It's just now we're doing it en masse and having to push ourselves forward to create new environments.
Totally. I think there are some good points brought up here too. Just talking about the different, whether it's a different genre, maybe it's a different size of artist. A question I think that comes up a lot right now for people who are artists and DJs are how to figure out what is the right live stream, if it's the right live stream. So I don't know, there's no formula really that works for all artists, I would say, across dance music. But if you could tell people, artists, how they can and should consider doing a live stream and how they could determine if it's beneficial and valuable to them, what would you tell them?
I mean, I would tell them that it just has to be really kind of authentic and kind of just original to yourself as an artist. Like not just contrived or copying what other people are doing or like between two ferns or just what they've seen. Just really kind of come up with what they feel is original and authentic for themselves, and fans will engage with it. It's real.
I think Fatboy Slim did a stream from his kitchen, and his daughter was in the mix too. And I like where you feel that
real. It's authentic.
The personality of the person coming through, which it's breaking the wall that exists in that sort of DJ to audience relationship that we all kind of have existed around for a long time. And the artists who are willing to put themselves out there or in a more authentic way are the ones that are winning right now.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I mean, DJs shouting people out on the track, giving track IDs. Like you can get silly with it, play Django while you DJ. Everyone's commenting, is he going to knock it over? Is he going to knock it over? There's like so many different kind of cool things you can do to engage the audience, and they react in a major way. And they're there every day. Literally every time you play, they're there. You're like creating new super fans, basically.
These are all things that these fans have never gotten to engage this way with an artist before, and they're definitely feeling that.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I mean, even as people who are just working on Zoom all the time, I know that was the conversation that came up a lot, is that when you get this window into somebody's life, like what their room or whatever it might be is, you get an extra added bit of personality, and that definitely translates over to DJs and what they might be adding into their live streams as well. The next thing I wanted to bring up is I came across this study that was recently published by MCR Data, which is a division of Billboard's parent company. And they found that 47% of music listeners feel that it's important for the industry to offer live stream performances and virtual concerts, which led to people speculating that live streaming could actually become a permanent part of the music industry beyond COVID-19, beyond a pandemic kind of limited world. What are your thoughts on that and what live streaming could look like beyond this time period?
I have to jump in on this.
Please.
It's 100% not going anywhere. And, Valerie and I had talked about this previously, that we had done an experiment with Galantis doing a VR set that happened to land right as this pandemic was coming to life. The thought process behind it was, how do you take an experience to fans in territories you might not be able to get to? So I think artists of all sizes are starting to really lean into that feeling. And if you don't want to go, or if you can't get to all the countries that you really have an audience in, this is an amazing opportunity to bring your performance to your fans. And beyond that, it's like, if you've got an album that's launching, what a great way to really hyper engage with the people that love what you do to launch that. It's just going to go hand in hand with touring when it comes back. It's just another tool in the box of ways that you can get closer to the people that love you.
Yeah, I mean, I think we were negotiating a live stream element of a contract this week, and it's going to be written into most contracts for festivals moving forward. The one thing I think that we need to be careful with is the video on demand, and then giving them rights to broadcast the live stream in perpetuity. I think that needs to be addressed, because I know, at least with some of my artists, when they perform, they're playing 95% unreleased music. Music that's going to be, forthcoming on upcoming albums or whatever. And, just having that set being living online somewhere, backed or paired with the festival play, it's kind of not right,
It's funny because I was talking to Parker from Apple about this and sort of their entry into these mixes that exist within the Apple system now, and Boiler Room and Defected and all of these other things coming into that system. And I feel like the tech will be there for us to make sure that people are monetizing properly, and you're not just out there in rights craziness.
Right.
I think that people have been trying to crack that code for so long of, the art of DJing, but also how do you monetize it where the people who control those masters are actually getting paid every time it's played, not just one-time use. So yeah, I think the tech's caught up.
Yeah, the tech is probably there, but one issue is that, a lot of these artists are playing, it's completely unreleased, or maybe it's their album they want to play that is not coming out for months, or maybe they own a label and half their set is, their whole upcoming release schedule for next year, and they just cannot have the stuff streamed and ripped and end up on low quality versions of it all over the internet. I mean, it definitely happens. That's one bridge that also we still need to cross somehow.
I think this is a great lead into kind of the next set of questions. With every kind of new subset of the music industry comes, I think, its own wave of problems to deal with as well. I think one conversation point that is, I would almost say the hot topic of the moment, is creating sustainable revenue streams for these kind of live stream structures or whatever it might be. What do you guys see as promising, structures for creating real revenue for artists, and what do you think maybe needs to be left behind in 2020 moving forward?
It's going to have to be a hybrid. I think Twitch has done a fantastic job of building something for people to, at all levels, be able to monetize it. But I also think that there's something to be said for really well-produced ticketed events that people are paying a fee to go and participate in. And it's the same sort of thing as if somebody's going to buy a ticket to see you at the Palladium or at a hard ticket venue versus go and see you at a festival. So it's going to end up being a hybrid. Artists are going to, I don't know that there's a future for anybody to replace their income in that way that they were at previously with what's going on in virtual. It depends on what level you were at. You know, the numbers that people like to throw around with like BTS and Travis Scott and some of these, you know, big acts, like we're in a little bit of a different playing field. So, you know, I think there's a real possibility. And I talked to you a little bit about some of the hybrid models that are happening with festivals in other countries where, you know, they're basically buying a live stream pre-recorded set and broadcasting it to a live audience in a territory where their borders are closed. I think that's a model we're going to see more of. You know, I think people are going to be cobbling it together for the next, you know, for the foreseeable future to figure out how do you maintain financial viability, you know, relevance with the music that you're releasing and getting it out there and heard, because it's currently just so much going on, and making sure that your life post-pandemic, you come back stronger than you went in. But I don't think you can take one path to get to that place. It's like multi-pronged.
Yeah,
I agree, and it would just be really tailored by artists for, you know, for what's needed as well, where they're at, what their platforms are, what their goals are, what they feel like they may have missed in the pandemic, what they did well, what their plans might be to come back as strong as possible in the future. Would be, you know, the perfect kind of cocktail of, you know, what level of, you know, digital they really want to go into.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I've taken this time, you know, with no touring, you know, obviously you have a lot more time on your hands as a manager, not advancing shows and such, but taking this time to really just reevaluate all the different business sectors of my artists and making sure everything's buttoned up. There is money and revenue to be made off streaming. We're not sure exactly what it's going to turn into in the future, but I know DJs that are, you know, they're making good money monthly. If you're able to stay home 1 weekend a month and to like focus on music and still make money by streaming from your studio, I think that's a great thing for everyone's sustainability and mental health.
There's clients in our family over here that have made more money than they might have without the pandemic. There are certain artists that they're being paid to do private Zooms, university privates, like it's all shapes and all sizes of what's possible. But I think for your touring DJ that was out there making whatever range of money, it's possible to potentially replace your missed income, but I think it's going to take a while.
Yeah.
But we also had conditioned our audience to get these things for free, right? You know, you watch Boiler Room, you watch Circle, you watch whatever, you know, it's challenging to now say like, hey, can you subscribe to my channel? Or can you,
that's a good point.
Can you pay for a ticket to get this? And, you know, I think you look at like Patreon and a couple of these things that are really, it is what it is at the core. You are a patron to this artist. You know, you want to support them in their livelihood.
Yeah, there's definitely a bit of retraining of fans and audience that is happening, but is also really challenging. And I think another thing that comes up when I think about the other consistent challenges within the live streaming industry is the idea of streaming fatigue. I think it's a novel problem for both artists and fans. You know, being on both ends, you hear artists are trying to figure out what's the right balance of doing streams, and fans, on the other hand, are getting advertised a stream every single day of the weekend. How should the industry navigate that problem of avoiding oversaturation of the streaming market?
I mean, it's a good question. Sometimes
is there an answer?
Some of them are talking about radius clauses. Some of them, if you're doing this stream, we just want to make sure you don't have another one within 2 weeks, 10 days. And how much is too much? Are the streams original? Have they been used before? Yeah, it's just kind of really up to, I guess, the artist and their team to decide how much is too much, what is strategic, and what is too much. And you can't literally do everything. I think when the pandemic kind of hit, everyone tried to do everything, but now kind of settled into a good groove with it, on what they think is too much, and kind of more curating what they're doing than they were before. Yeah, I mean, I think it really is, you know, artist by artist and what their goals are.
Yeah, I think one thing that I've kind of like been conceptualizing is, you know, having a DJ, they do one show a week, but then forming these new collectives. So you start a Twitch channel, be an artist collective with 5 different DJs. Each DJ streams once a week. That way you're clocking the hours you need to clock at the end of the day to get the check. But each artist is only playing once a week. And everybody's kind of helping promote each other and kind of like foster this new community based around this brand. And I just launched one that's called Good TV with like Justin Martin, Mark and Royce, those guys. And it's been crazy how successful it's been already.
Don't you feel like that's in so many ways, like what we're going through is like a throwback to what it used to be?
Exactly. That's the whole community part, right? We're like restarting these communities that existed when we started this thing, for me 15 years ago, going to Golden Gate Park to the Dirty Bird barbecues and just feeling that sense of like crew love vibe, so yeah.
Yeah.
Are there any, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say it's forced everyone to like reconnect with their crew in
Totally.
some way or another, because you can't really, if all you're thinking about is doing it on your own, I feel like we've come so far in this time from like political activism and social and cultural movements and all of the things that have happened inside of this time of a pandemic. Like we can't go back to what we knew wasn't really working, where we were building sort of false prophets and inflated egos, and just like that isn't what was the core of this community from the beginning. And it's amazing that we had this epic ride of money being injected into our world and big deals coming across. But like, if you are not an authentic artist right now, it reeks, and you can smell it from a mile away through this environment we're in. So I do, you asked earlier, like, what do we not want to go back to? I would hope that like the core values of what we all love continues to thrive, and not the commercialization is fantastic. There's room for it. There's been amazing artists in our world for as long as electronic music has existed, but the plot got a little twisted somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that is probably the best segue into the next question that I actually wanted to ask too. Exactly what you're saying, Stephanie, about the silver lining again, I think that we can take away of the music industry going through COVID right now is that it's been a forced hard reset, right, for everyone to reevaluate what was working, what wasn't working, and what will work in the future. In a strange way, I think it might have been a necessary result after years of hearing from artists that, mentally and physically they were not well with the way things were set up for them to live this life, to go on tour constantly. There were so many detriments that we kept hearing about, especially I think over the past 2 or 3 years. How does that make you think about what structuring a tour will look like post-pandemic? Are there any changes or things that you're flagging right now that you want to bring forward after this?
I mean, artists were always last year and the year before and the year before that, flagging that by the end of the year, they were just completely destroyed and really wanted to structure their time better or not fly overseas so many weekends or route the tours better or take 1 weekend a month off was kind of where we were at. And then, things come along. Oh, this is a good opportunity. And maybe I won't have this again, or maybe I'm not going to be able to put this in next year. So you start to lose those weekends off and, burnout is real. I think that we really, moving forward, need to kind of reimagine the tour schedule and make sure that there is room for family time or studio time or just, your own time, just to make sure that, we don't kind of end up exactly where you were saying, where we were before, where, by the end of the year, 90 to 200 shows later, you're just really in a serious kind of in burnout mode, and no like 2 weeks during a holiday break, if you even get that, is going to kind of, reset.
There's a
really
reason that everybody's
all year long. You need to have little breaks, little time, little recharge, so you don't end up at that point every October. Hang on here again.
Don't you feel like it's like you can watch the rhythm of like who's in Ibiza, who's in Tulum, and who's in Bali, and at what point they're on their break, because they, that like little trifecta of where so many artists to go on holiday and recharge, whatever. But
Tulum used to be that January period where no one worked, and then it suddenly became very, very busy. And the only time they took off, and we used to you never look at offers on Christmas Eve, Christmas, and before. But in the last few years, it's become a good night to play, and they literally have gotten to the point where there is no time off, unless you absolutely just muscle it into the schedule and make a commitment to have it.
Yeah, I remember there was only BPM Fest at one point, but now there's the whole Thailand thing, Vietnam. So it's like you literally can festival hop all year, if you wanted to.
There is no built-in even 1 week break anymore.
But I think that's the responsibility of the professionals that surround the artist, right? I think obviously
it's a team effort for sure.
You have to have real conversations, not just with the artist, with their significant others, with everyone around them, because it's really hard to say no. I think and that feeling of maybe I won't get this next year is real. I think it's going to be challenging. I think we're going to have a lot of people who are going to probably push themselves harder than they'll admit right now, because they're going to have had a year or whatever it is off the road. And I do think we will see people that we probably need to check and say, you know what, maybe that's not the best thing for your physical health or your mental health. But again, it's coming at it from a human, holistic approach, and not a financial gain approach.
Right.
I mean, it definitely seems like there's just a few missing pieces in between the conversation around live streaming and reaching the world and figuring out how to tour in a more healthy, mentally balanced sort of way, that maybe right now is the time that we're kind of figuring it out. Another thing that I know we had kind of briefly talked about in prepping for this conversation was the conversation about regionalization. Beyond the health concerns and safety concerns around the pandemic, it's also caused an insane amount of disruption in traveling and in visas for a lot of artists that, we're becoming kind of global superstars traveling all over the world at any given time of year. We know North American artists are going to have a hard time getting to Europe, even when travel does start to come back, and the same vice versa coming into the US. How do you guys anticipate dealing with that as things progress and hopefully get better, as artists are able to travel again?
It's going to be the Wild West of wherever your passport is. If you hold an American passport, your options are limited. If you hold a European passport or Australian or Canadian, there's more doors open to you. So I think, I don't think Kelsey and I, and any of us, thought we were going to have to become such experts in borders and immigration. We're all watching and paying attention to more politics than we probably ever wanted to, because it's completely informing how we move around. And you talk about how it used to be, right? And you do a tour in California and you just drive up the coast, and that's what's going to come back. I think it's awesome. It'll be that in a lot of different places, and artists that are willing to maybe adjust and be flexible are going to win, because they'll be the ones to get out there first.
Yeah, it's already happening as things kind of slowly start to open up. Like you said, all the things you can drive to kind of start first. And also, whatever you think has the highest safety requirements of patrons also kind of come first. They're more sustainable than, people trying to just go renegade and hope for the best. There's more sustainability and safety, not only for, the artists and all the fans as well.
I want to bring in a question that came in a little bit earlier in the chat that is relevant to this part of the conversation. So, Fresh is the Word asked, for those parts of the world that you were saying that artists may not be able to get to, COVID time or not, how do you geo-promote to those areas to get that audience to a live stream?
I mean, you want to get into internet advertising?
Yeah, through targeted marketing. Geo-targeted marketing campaign.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder if there's a conversation around, I guess even kind of related to what you were saying, Stephanie, about being so in tune with not only just politics in general, but also every region, I think, is going through something different right now related to COVID. I know that in Taiwan and in parts of Asia, they're already starting to have major festivals again. Is that something that you guys are taking into consideration, you know, working with the artists and your teams right now?
I think you're not doing your clients justice if you're not tapping into social media companies that help to navigate the waters in Asia and each of those territories specifically, because in particular in China and Japan and certain other places, you can't even speak to your audience in a clear way. So, I mean, you have to use social, you have to use platforms that are thriving in those markets to find your people. You know, we do data dives on what radio stations are playing things in certain territories so that you can see where there are spikes and you know where to drive more energy. I think, again, it's nerdy and like technical, but it depends on what your role is with the artist. If you're the manager for the record label, you better know where the audience is and how to talk to them in that market. It's less for the agents to really be harnessing that data in the same way. It's kind of fed to them. So they're not really, I don't know, it's just a different dynamic. So it's really mining the data and knowing how to use it.
I mean, one thing that I've done that kind of worked well with Soul Clap is we partnered with clubs around the world. So like we picked our favorite clubs that we play at around the world, and we partnered with them on the live stream. So we pushed out, you know, the live stream info, the flyer and everything via their socials, the club socials. So it hits that market, and we choose a time that works for the market. Obviously, we did it like we did a Mexico one, we did an Italian one, and people showed up. It was great, you know? So it's like kind of reaching out to those people you play for every year, involving in this project. They get excited, they push it. We're like, oh, we're doing Soul Clap, you know? And there was a lot of love. It was awesome.
That's great.
I also love this comment that came in that says, it's not really a question, it's more of a comment. It says, I love how streaming has opened up a whole new series of clubs, quote unquote. Artists that could not get their music heard due to venue politics now have a stage to play on. What are your guys' thoughts on that, as far as how the kind of limitation of physical touring has actually maybe helped different localized scenes change?
It's awesome. I mean, it's right back to having a residency. Like, you know, if you're able to be in like Club Q or, you know, whatever different thing is going on, I think it's fantastic.
No, I think it's really helpful also. And then people that kind of, you know, finally get an audience here when things do come back to live. I mean, these are the people the local promoters are going to have noticed over this time. And these people really have a chance to kind of jump on support lineups or even host their own nights, their own parties. I think.
Uh-oh.
Oh no, we lost Andrew. Maybe he got a call on his phone.
Uh-oh.
There you are.
Oh, yay.
You're back.
But don't you guys think that there are artists that are currently breaking right now that haven't even had a chance to get those looks on festivals? They're like owning the hell out of this quarantine. You know, I look at people like LPGOB, who like, she's been on her grind for a long time, but now like she's really getting it in streaming. Like people are tuned in, and I love that some of the promoter partners are picking up on those things and amplifying those voices that they might not have booked on their festivals 6 months ago. But in this moment, they see the need for new and fresh and people who are willing to put themselves out there.
Yeah, I call it Twitch famous.
Yeah, but we got to make them all, we got to like help them translate it.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think like there's some DJs doing some crazy stuff. Like this guy Subset, the DJ for like 46 hours straight. One of my artists, Ardalan, DJ for 22 hours straight. And after he did that, he's just like, everyone comes to his streams. It's like he's like, I don't know, created this mystique for himself. It's pretty cool.
That's awesome. I didn't know he did that.
Yeah.
I love that.
That's a crazy amount
like,
of streaming.
now he has all these like meme stuff that like the chat creates these memes for him, and we're like making all these t-shirts with the memes. One's the kimono cowboy because he wears his cowboy hat and wears a kimono. The other one is Tiesto of Modesto, which it's really funny. So we're creating all this merch based on these memes that developed in the Twitch chat, and kids are just, it's good, going crazy.
Oh, smart.
Yeah.
Love it.
And it's just more examples of really just honing in on whatever personality tidbit your artist has, really just go for it. And I think also a key part of that is listening to the community as well, because it's like an artist can have all this stuff, but when you see the comments that are memifying something that the artist has done once, then that's where you kind of pick up on it, right? Another question is about, the smaller artists that we're kind of talking about right now, the ones that maybe are getting a light shined on them that they didn't have before. Where are they going to fit into the equation? Right now, there might be a great moment for them to take hold of the opportunity with streaming, but how will that translate for them once touring comes back? What do you guys anticipate?
You want to take that, Kelsey?
I think he's frozen.
Oh, no.
No! We lost Andrew. He'll come back to us one day.
Yeah.
Live streaming. So this is one of the beautiful things about live streaming is we're live, guys. And stuff.
We are live.
Happen. Errors happen. It's okay. We're gonna get through it.
I have to say that I think this reset is not just happening within the artist community and the professionals. It's happening inside the buyers' offices as well. And promoters have had to make certain financial adjustments, right? Like we all read the trades. They're equally not earning money right now. So I think that their level of commitment to, let's say, overpaying on certain things like they had been doing in the past might not be there. I'm sure that there's going to be room for more of these people to come through. And that goes with the pandemic, but that also goes with Black Lives Matter. That goes with diversity in gender and sexual orientation in lineups. I think that this pandemic has just really brought to light a lot of the things that were wrong, that we couldn't fix fast enough because the wheels were just spinning and everybody was moving and business was sailing. So it's like, okay, now we're like chilling. What are we going to do to make sure that the people on stage look and reflect more of the people in the audience that are paying to be there to be a part of it? So I have to believe and stand by and live by it won't go back to the way it was. And some of these artists, if you want to call them Twitch famous, like whatever, like I think that they will have a place to grow and rise from.
Yeah, I fully agree
on that, but I get very heated on those topics.
I'm right there with you. I'm snapping along. Andrew, I don't know if you were frozen when I asked the question, but Stephanie tried to throw it to you, but you were frozen. But I was basically just, no, we're happy to have you back. And I was basically just asking, continuing off what we were just talking about smaller artists having a moment to shine right now, how do you think they're going to fit into the equation moving forward, moving out of just a simply streaming format and into touring? Like, where will their place be?
I think that everything was the scene was so healthy before COVID, and really just all the markets we're seeing, big and small shows, booking all kinds of artists, all kinds of music, all the way down to really small markets in Toledo, Ohio, and really just really small places. The scene was very healthy, and I think that after COVID, it's going to take a minute to kind of ramp back up and get to a place where it's really as healthy as it was before, and some of the promoters have a lot of budget to add 2-3 support acts to shows that wasn't there that just a few years before that. I think it's going to take a second on that level to just kind of bring the whole music industry as a whole up to where it was. But on another note, like you were saying, people that are local artists that are really pushing the envelope on Twitch and virtually are finally gonna have a new platform, a new kind of entry into these slots that that they didn't have before. I think it's gonna really help a lot of local DJs and a lot of domestic artists that are really gonna be seen and heard in a larger way than they were before, than they were able to before.
Do you guys feel like when Spotify became like a big thing in this country and we suddenly had to talk about artists that were big on Spotify, not because they were big in the club, not because somebody had seen a set that blew their mind, I feel like we made room for them, right? We'll make room for this next wave of people who found their moment in this time at home. Same way.
Yeah. Oh,
I feel
absolutely.
like there'll be a lot less artists too, right? Because there's a lot of people in it for the wrong reasons. I think maybe like not for like the original like values of dance music. They were like in it to be cool or just for the popularity or whatever, you know. So hopefully, like I feel like there will be less of those type of artists.
It's really going to boil it down to those that are like in this.
Right.
For sure.
I'm going to bring in a comment here that I found really interesting. Somebody, Deeper Shades of House, said, I don't think any successful streamer needs to go play out. I'm fairly certain the career can be continued online until people come knocking. Not really a question, more of an observation, but what are your guys' thoughts on that? I really like, Stephanie, I like your analogy about, you know, people making room for the Spotify artists. So, yeah, what are your thoughts on this?
I mean, it's to the artists. Like if you're a performer, you're probably going to want to be in front of a live audience at some point. You're going to want to have that feeling. Now, if you're even gamers, right? Like they still go and game in like public forums, and they want to feel that connection in some way. It's not that often that you get like the ninjas or whoever of the world that only sit and play the game at home. So I would just say it's a personal choice. If somebody comes up and they love it and they're like, I'm not leaving my house, like that's cool. Right.
At least that's an option for you now. If you don't want to leave the house, you totally can.
All my artists are dying to play in front of people. They just can't wait to get back to the club. I think one thing that is, you know, we can kind of learn from this time is maybe focusing a little bit more on your hometown and DJing more in your hometown as an artist, like creating, like Stephanie said, the residency idea and like fostering the like local scene, you know, in your hometown. You know, there are a lot of like DJs, they don't never play where they live. You know, they're flying everywhere to DJ. And I feel like, you know, maybe you do that once a month or something, you know, and I think that's something that, you know, we should be looking at more.
I'm ready for like the Timothy Leary style bus tour, like but in a van of people just like going across the country and like taking it to the people the way it used to be. Like,
let's go.
Absolutely. I mean, it's time for a hard reset. Anything is possible now. Like, anybody could reimagine anything. Any promoter could reimagine how they think events are supposed to be. How touring's supposed to be run. It's really just going to just be a blank slate for people to be as creative as they want to, right? They can be.
I mean, don't you think though that there's a future where we're going to be live at a club, but that club that you're experiencing is like equally being transmitted on the web, and the people who don't want to go out because they're maybe not so comfortable or confident, or maybe it's like some wacky BDSM club, I don't know, whatever it is, but it's going to hybrid. Like, I don't think it's going to go away. It's not what we thought it was going to look like, but I can't imagine that, like I said, any performer would opt out of being in front of a live audience, but maybe.
Yeah, I actually have a clear memory of being pitched and shown an idea of exactly that, where a DJ was playing at a club, but then I was in a room sitting on a couch watching it, and that was like the sell of the concept. But obviously that was a few years too early, and everyone was like, well, why would you want this when you can go to the club? But then again, exactly as you said, I think a lot of us who kind of work and operate in the music industry or live in big cities who are constantly exposed to great shows take that part for granted a lot of the times in other markets where they don't have the access. They're dying for those opportunities. So,
but how cool is it that people who aren't 18 or 21 can experience this music right now, right? Like,
yep.
In so many ways, like we could be turning on an audience that wasn't, you know, they weren't in a place that they could really participate. Like my 6-year-old being with me while I'm watching a Tomorrowland stream or Insomniac or whatever, like that's rad. She thinks it looks cool. So I have to think that we're, as a community, doing a great job of getting our music out there and communicating it to the audience. But Twitch coming to the table, YouTube, all of these platforms giving us more amplified voices, I think it brings us to people that maybe wouldn't have found us before, which is cool. Now we just have to keep them.
Another question that came up in the chat is an interesting one from Fresh is the Word. What kind of music, especially the smaller artists, if they're a little confused, should artists make right now since we're doing live streaming and it's in a different space than clubs, arenas, and festivals?
I mean, I think artists always have to make what's authentic to them at all times.
Exactly.
So not follow trends, not copy anyone else. Really, just be true to yourself and make your art. And really, just no compromises.
You might want to pause on putting an album out this year, just for the sake of getting a clear lane to push it and to have it heard and to tour it properly. But if you're talking about tracks, I think you could go all day. You know, if you're releasing a high concept sort of album and you really want to have people sit down and sink their teeth into it, you might want to pause until there's a little more like clarity of what's going on with touring.
Yeah, I mean, I always tell my artists to make, music comes from their heart, basically. You know, I never really try to give them any direction, just, yeah.
100%. We were talking about this again today. Like, someone out there that's far more technical than me is currently probably looking to see what kind of music is performing better now, because I don't think it's exactly what would have been performing if we were.
I mean, I know for streaming, I know that classic rock is performing better than it was. I think that streaming overall for like dance music is a bit down just because less people on their phones, less people driving to work, less people working out in gyms, right, listening to Spotify. But classic rock is a genre that is it definitely benefited in the age of COVID.
There's some nostalgia, I guess.
Yeah, nostalgia.
Warm and fuzzy.
Yeah, I think people need the feel good moment inside. So they're like, what can I listen to?
Yeah, exactly.
Another question, extending off the gaming comparison, is there anything electronic music artists can learn from any other industries at this time? Maybe what can we learn from classic rock?
Make timeless music.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, is there anything else? I mean, besides just the listening experience? Go ahead.
I mean, I would say not on the music making side, but on the watching people like Addison Rae and some of the TikTok kids do their merch drops and how incredible it is that they're able to really mobilize their fan base, and they're doing it in a tech savvy way. I think there are things we can learn probably more from digital kind of youth culture side of life, more than anything. And then make sure your rights are tied up and tidy. You know that you're getting paid on all the songs that you've released, and none of it's that sexy to talk about, but it's the part of the business that can make sure that you're really actually making a living from it and not just throwing music out into the ether.
Yeah, that's a good point.
There's some really good questions rolling in from the chat right now, so I'm just going to keep adding them in.
What's up? You can't
What's
see
up, chat? Yeah. Lauren Lipsey, hey Lauren, asks, do you think the tech is there to make the home experience similar to a live one?
You think the tech
I don't know. I just don't know if the goal is to replace the club. I think the artists that are doing well on the streams are really trying different things and trying to kind of supplement or take different directions or different takes on it. I don't know if their goals are really to get to replace the club in a home environment. I think they're trying to give you a little something more intimate or a little something different.
Yeah.
I don't think that again, it's are you a person that's going to put an Oculus headset on or not? Then you can maybe have that experience. I mean, there's thresholds to what you want to, who you are as a person.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely artists out there that if it can't be the club or the environment that they feel their art should be experienced in, and that's how they feel, then yeah, they don't really generally stream at all, those artists. If it can't, that's how they want to be experienced, that's how their music fits best, and it's either that or nothing. And yeah, they definitely are not the ones trying to doing different streams and different locations and different approaches. Yeah, there's really not trying to kind of recreate the club, but kind of do something else. The ones that are kind of streaming the most.
Yeah, I mean, the chat is great, but it's nothing like looking at a crowd in front of you smiling when you drop a track, or you know, a couple making out while you're playing a song or something. I mean, you're just never going to get that experience outside of the real world.
Emoji throwing doesn't do the same thing.
Another question from the chat, Artinopolis asks, what are your views on pay-per-view live streaming? Another hot topic.
I'm for it. I think you have to bring something like different though. It can't be you in your backyard with like your flip-flops on. Like you gotta bring a different flavor and actually take some risks and create a show. You know, if you're an actor to pay money, you need to give them something that's cool.
Yeah, I think we kind of shot ourselves in the foot hopping on the streaming stuff so quickly and for free as an industry. If it was scaled back, I think there could have been a little bit more of these like paid wall kind of experiences happening. But I mean, there's so much content for free. It's definitely diluted in our world for sure. To like try to sell a ticket for something, it has to be special.
Agreed.
It's been interesting to observe it because I feel the same way about that. And, you know, both the good and the bad of the electronic music scene is that we are experimental, right? We're willing to try things out faster and earlier than everyone else. But even in quarantine, I remember, I think it was maybe Megan Thee Stallion did a stream that was ticketed, but it was just the most basic. You know, she's performing and doing a great job, but there was no extra bells and whistles. And I was like, the difference between the genre's approach to the paid live stream is really important, and almost interesting that the electronic music, you know, community holds ourselves to such a high standard.
We had a presentation the other day from the team that runs Genius, and they showed us some of the footage from, I think it was Wiz Khalifa. I can't exactly remember which artist it was, but I loved the dynamic that they had of, you know, you can pay for a drop, you can put yourself on stage, like, you know, there was songs you could request. But I think there are certain limitations that we have because of how many of these artists perform. DJ sets don't really give you flexibility to like stand there and sing a song, unless you sing.
And DJs don't want requests, right?
Right. So I think it's cool that there are options and there's other ways of connection that, like, I don't know, I'm learning a lot from other genres and what they're doing and how it's being done. And I think some of those things could be applied in our world. Like someone like Diplo could do a request set. You know, I think D Nice does some requests through his Instagram. Like that's an artist that maybe you wouldn't consider it electronic music, but he's a DJ and he's part of the community in one way or another, who's just like popped off in this time. And it's cool to see.
Yeah, I think that goes back to what we were saying again. You know, if you're really in it right now, being an artist, you will find a way and an audience or a niche or something, as long as you just keep thinking about it and getting creative with it. Well, we're nearing the end. We still have about 6 minutes left. So if you have any last questions in the chat, throw them in there. We'll try and get to them. But a question I want to ask you guys, what can artists be doing right now to set themselves up for success after the pandemic?
Studio time. Yeah, it's just like a really good time to kind of stay in that zone, stay in that creative place, uninterrupted, and just see where it goes. It's really, you don't have the constant distraction or life interruption of being on the road most of the time, or just there's nowhere else to go, or no restaurants to go to, nothing to do. It's really just perfect time to be creative.
We should be in a creative renaissance.
Should be, for sure.
We should be coming
I'm
back.
very excited to see what people have been up to all this time.
Hopefully they haven't been doing nothing.
Yeah.
Best advice. Don't do nothing. Do something.
No, I mean, it depends on, again, I know I keep kind of coming back to this place. It like depends on the kind of music you make and the kind of artist you are. But it's true. I mean, always, yes, like you should be making music like that. If that is your craft and your art, like go for it. Not every DJ is a talented producer, though. You know, you have to sort of look at the difference there. Yeah. So I think it just depends on who you are. And if you're about delivering a killer set, then like do it, find a way. You know, if you're not the producer out there, like, you know, do something once a week or once a month that's special, that really reflects and show what you do.
Yeah, I mean, time has always been against us, you know, never having the time. The artists never have the time to work on their sets or their edits or be in the studio or whatever is making them creative. They never really have enough time, always. So this is, you know, this is the time to button it all up, do everything you wanted to do, catch up on all those half-finished projects, whatever it might be.
Stop making sourdough and start making.
Yeah, I mean, I told my artist I want 3 years of albums, music done by December. Let's go.
But don't you feel like once people are able to go and feel like that feeling of putting a record on and a live audience reaction, like even if they had 3 years worth of music, they'd be back in the studio trying to make changes and tweaks and edits.
Oh, yeah. I don't feel this way anymore. I feel, I feel different. I feel better. I want to change this.
Yep.
Yeah, that's great advice. I mean, yeah, just try and be proactive right now, even though sometimes it feels hard. It's
don't overthink it.
Stay close to the community, right? Like, we need each other now more than we ever had. Like, if we don't lock arms between managers, agents, promoters, venues, the press, like if we don't say we demand that this industry stays and is firm, and whether our governments give us aid and our venues don't go out of business and all of those things, like if we don't really live what we say we're about in this moment, like we might not get to come back to some of our closest friends and some of those dank venues that we love that are like little sweat boxes. So I think it's the same on the artist level, like stay close to your creative community, you know?
I love a hashtag LaFera preach moment. Whenever you have a moment like that, I'm like, yes, amen, snaps. I fully agree. I mean, that's a great piece of advice. I was gonna again kind of end off with any parting advice you three have for folks of the music industry, who I assume there's probably a couple of us watching alongside. You know, what would you tell them to get through this tough time in the next few months?
Vote.
Vote. Yeah. You know, self-care. Definitely find out how to make any changes, things that maybe weren't working before. Really make those changes when it comes back, and just be healthy.
I would just say, continue what I was saying. Like, I believe in the spirit of this community, and I have lived it for like decades now, of, you know, from the highs and lows of competitiveness because of somebody getting a bigger check or a bigger residency. And I come home to that like group hug on a dance floor being my happy place. And if we can't look out for each other while there's kind of funky stuff on the horizon, then you're really not about what this community is. So I just stay close, take care of your friends, check on people. Like, you know, most of us are getting up in years, and we've committed our lives to this thing, and we want to see it through. We want to bring those experiences to the next generation so that they can feel it in their bones like we do. But right now we're on the sidelines, so you got to stay close.
Yeah, I would say maybe invest your time and energy into projects you own, and help developing those more. And then if you're ever feeling down and out, go outside for a walk. It's beautiful out there. Hug a tree, you know?
Don't hug people, hug a tree.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll end with this last question from Doug. Hey, Doug, one last question. How can we follow you guys? Give yourselves the promo shout outs. Where can people follow you and find you guys on the social channels?
Oh, yeah, my last name. Easy. Just LaFera.
At Andrew Kelsey, or at Liaison Artists, or liaisonartist.com.
JMac has the best Instagram handle, at Johnny Macaroni. Way better than all of ours, I think.
I know. Lame.
Cool.
I gotta step it up.
Thank you guys for hosting this, and like Paxachat team, like super cool that you put this together. And Valerie, as always, you're amazing.
The best. You're amazing.
Yeah, I was gonna say thank you to
guys.
you three for.
Let's just give a shout out to your weekly show, the Newsfloor.
Oh yeah, I don't want to take too much of that promoting myself, but yes, there's a Newsfloor at the Newsfloor at Lost Resort on another Twitch channel. But yeah, seriously, thank you to all three of you. It was honestly such an honor to come moderate this with you guys, and I feel like I learned a lot. I'm sure people in the chat, it seems like from what I can see, everyone's saying it's awesome. They're really appreciative. So thank you, Paxachat, also for giving us this time and the platform. You guys should follow and subscribe if you haven't already. This channel is fantastic. Best sets ever and also cool chats. So thanks, everybody, and stay healthy out there and stay safe.
Bye, guys.
Bye.